So I'll open it to you first, Gov. Trump can say this is a big win on his ability to control birthright citizenship. That is nowhere in the opinion.
No, it's definitely not in the opinion. And to your point, look, it's a win for the democratic process, the presidency, the next Democrat president, and there will be one. Could be in just a couple of years if Republicans don't play their cards right. They're going to be the beneficiary of this too. What it really does, to your point, is it limits the scope of what people can do within these federal court decisions. And theoretically, you would hope that would disincentivize some of the more frivolous federal lawsuits that are trying to infringe on that executive power. I was a governor, right? I mean, I had this stuff happen to me as a governor, as a chief executive. I had judges in New Mexico trying to, push back against what we were doing in New Hampshire, but it would apply to then all 50 states. It made absolutely no sense. So if they want to do the class action thing, that's fine. You got to put in the work and actually do it and make a case with a variety of folks. So no, I don't think it's a huge win on either side, and it's definitely not a win for birthright citizenship because they haven't even taken that up yet. I think it'll pass. They'll vote on it, but that will probably be a year or two away. So, they got a lot of steps to go through before they can claim victory there.
If it's still even ripe at that time. I mean, Chris, to me, I was really surprised that the brothers and sisters on the left, whatever you want to call them now, wanted to make this some big boogeyman about how bad it was for justice. The plaintiffs in the case get the relief the lower court said. Trump cannot decide 14th Amendment issues on a whim.
Yeah, I mean, that's correct, and I don't think you're totally wrong. But the Supreme Court had the ability to see this for what it was, a blatant violation of the plain meaning of the 14th Amendment. They could have mentioned that in dictum, or they could have ruled on it themselves, because they've been known to twist themselves into pretzels to make rulings that are clearly needed. And this is a situation where the President of the United States does now have the authority in places where this order and this freeze is not in effect to determine whether or not people are citizens based on the status of their parents. And that is not the plain language of the 14th Amendment, and the Supreme Court could have easily dealt with it.
I don't know, because then they would have been violating their own principle of standing. And they would have been expanding a ruling beyond the plaintiff class. And here, the remedy is obvious, Chris. If he does that stupid BS to somebody else, then they sue. Then they sue. And then he'll get stopped again like he just was.
Well, forgive me. The plaintiffs here did have standing.
You're forgiven.
Right? They had standing in that jurisdiction, and it was a case in controversy that the Supreme Court could have made a ruling on. The Supreme Court can pluck any case it wants and make a ruling if they so choose. They have broad powers to determine this stuff. And again, this should be an open and shut case. It should be a one-line opinion.
It is an open and shut case. But you are assuming that the plaintiffs in this case even argued it should apply to the whole country. They didn't. They were arguing for themselves. Look, here's my point. I don't want to do the legalities with you because they're plain. Anybody can read the decision. You don't have to be as smart as Chris Hah. You can do it. You could be a mouth breather like me. You can figure it out. Chris, this is my point, is that nothing escapes the grinder. This is why nothing's happening in Congress right now for immigration.
Yeah.
Nothing's happening with any of these laws. Sununu, this is for you. There is no reason to try to fix anything. All you have to do is oppose. That's it. Cooperation makes you look like a pussy.
Yeah, raising money on outrage, right? Outrage sells, and it's selling through a whole variety of different ways. It's my biggest frustration. I've met with individual Republican senators one at a time, and they'll say, "Yeah, we're gonna really balance the budget and get our fiscal house in order," and they do nothing, right? Because all of their effort is on the outrage. The fact that they don't even try on an immigration bill. I've told them, I said, guys, Republicans, eventually you're not going to have control, and the Democrats will pass their version of an immigration bill. You should love the opportunity to pass a kind of more conservative, fundamental bill that you want to see around immigration, but they won't touch it. They're so afraid because they can't garner that outrage with their team. And that's a huge frustration. It doesn't happen as much in the states, right? Because there's just more connectivity to what's happening between governors and legislators and mayors. But at the federal level, again, the only place in America where there's no balanced budget amendment, the only place in America where there's no real accountability to the constituents. This is a chain reaction of campaign finance reform problems, gerrymandering problems, term limits that are drastically needed. It's like all those pieces could be done, self-imposed.
The Senate
get
itself.
Everybody on track, but they refuse to do it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.